So, in our last lesson, we explored the historical background, Bradbury's warnings about censorship and conformity and technology's impact. And so, today we're finally going to step into his imagined world. We're going to meet the novel's main character, Guy Montag, and we're going to explore the setting that shapes every decision that he makes. We're also going to practice annotation, learning how to track clues about the character and the setting, while also making or marking evidence that's going to help us interpret the text. So as we're reading, just keep one question in mind. What kind of world are we entering, and how does it reflect on our own world? And by the end of this lesson, you're going to be able to identify how Bradbury reveals character traits both directly through narration and indirectly through actions, dialogue, and description. You're going to be able to explain how the setting shapes the tone and the initial conflict of the story. And we're also going to be able to use strategies that help us read with purpose. So we're going to start by connecting what we notice about Montag's world to the larger themes of censorship and individuality and freedom of thought. So Bradbury's world is unsettling. Instead of firemen who put out the fires, they start them to burn the books. And this setting, it feels advanced, but very hollow. There's massive televisions, constant noise, citizens who avoid thinking deeply. And so we see people like Montag's wife, Mildred, consumed by her parlor walls or her TV screens. And conversations that are meaningless and relationships that are distant. And Bradbury is painting this world with imagery that feels both futuristic and eerily familiar, an exaggerated mirror of our own culture's obsession with comfort and distraction. And our protagonist, Guy Montag, he's introduced as a man who takes pride in his destructive work. The opening line says, "It was a pleasure to burn." That immediately shocks us. Montag finds excitement, almost joy in the destruction. But as the chapter is unfolding, the cracks are appearing in that certainty, and Bradbury is showing Montag's inner conflict through these small, subtle moments, like the fascination that he has with Clarice's curiosity, or his unease at his wife's detachment, or maybe it's his growing discomfort with his job. So we start to see a man waking up from a numb existence and asking himself questions that he's never dared to ask before. So Clarice McClellan is kind of the spark that's igniting Montag's transformation. She's 17, she's full of curiosity, and she is completely unlike anyone else he knows. And when she asks, "Are you happy?" Montag's entire world begins to shake. Though, through Clarice, Bradbury is showing what's been lost in this world. The genuine thought, human curiosity, and even the emotional connection. She's symbolic of innocence and awareness. She's this light that's starting to crack Montag's darkness. So Bradbury is using direct and indirect characterization to build depth. When he writes the quote, "He wore his happiness like a mask," we see direct insight. Bradbury tells us Montag's joy is fake. But indirect characterization is even more revealing. Like when Clarice questions make Montag uncomfortable, we see his inner struggle. And together these methods reveal a man that's torn between who he's supposed to be and who he's becoming. He's a fireman who's starting to question the fire. So direct characterization is the author is telling us the traits, like he wore his happiness like a mask. Indirect characterization is shown through his actions and dialogue and reactions. So Clarice's laughter made him uneasy. We're showing who he is. He's not feeling comfortable with her laughter. And Bradbury's setting is going to build the novel's oppressive tone. So the story begins at night in a world that's filled with like neon and metal and smoke. There's no nature, there's no silence. It's just artificial brightness and mechanical noises. And even people's homes feel cold and impersonal. And through this setting, Bradbury's creating a mood of alienation and emptiness. His futuristic city represents what happens when comfort replaces consciousness, when people trade depth for distraction. So Clarice's presence, this is kind of reminding us how unnatural her world has become. She walks instead of driving fast. She notices the taste of the rain. She asks why instead of when. And through her, Bradbury is showing the contrast between true humanity and mechanical existence. And Clarice's questions are pushing Montague and the reader to consider what it means to be alive in a world where thinking is forbidden. So let's practice some annotating here. As you're reading chapter 1, I want you to circle or underline any adjectives or verbs that are describing Montague and Clarice. I want you to highlight the setting descriptions, like the colors, the lights, the sounds, the temperature. And in the margins, I want you to jot some short notes, like Montague feels numb, or Clarice equals curiosity, or setting equals lifeless. And then lastly, I want you to track the tone shifts. Does the atmosphere change when Clarice appears? Does the light or sound imagery shift? The annotations don't have to be long, they just need to be meaningful. All right, so let's look at this opening line together. It was a pleasure to burn. Right away, we see Bradbury is shocking us. That one word, pleasure, it's disturbing when it's paired with destruction. And his use of the verbs like eaten and blackened gives the fire a living, predatory quality. The tone is intense, even seductive. So we want to ask ourselves, what does this reveal about Montague's relationship with fire? And what might it symbolize about his society's values? So let's discuss what we've kind of uncovered here. Clarice is challenging everything Montague believes. She's the light in a world of shadows. And the setting is mirroring the inner emptiness of society. And Montague's growing awareness shows his first spark of rebellion. So why might Bradbury choose nighttime for this encounter? Because it's symbolic. It's a dark world waiting for somebody to bring the light. And before we wrap up, I want you to write a short reflection. You can use a direct quote if you can. How does the setting affect Montague's emotions? Or what does one character reveal about the world that they live in? Your goal here is to connect the evidence to the insight, just like we've practiced.